My name is Sven Kohl. Welcome to this webinar. We will provide you an example about the lean approach to structure sales of an individualized product. Please be informed that this webinar will be recorded and publicly accessible. So if you have any question, please use the Q&A section of this webinar to post your questions. All of the questions will be collected in the Q&A window and can be answered after the presentation. Quality is remembered long after the price is forgotten. This is a slogan of the Gucci family. This motto is a good example to highlight that quality, as an example of the sales process, is much more important for purchase experience than a low price. What will we talk about today? We will talk about a typical quote process, about a point of view about this process, about an SAP solution approach, and about the advantages of using C4 in combination with S4. Eventually, we will close with a Q&A session. We will start with a discovery journey of a typical quote process for the Superstructure Incorporated. The company Superstructure Incorporated, which is a construction company, was successful in winning a very big construction project that is way bigger than all projects they had to deliver before. To be prepared for this upcoming project, the demand arises to acquire additional excavators. Mr. Meyer, the owner of the Superstructure Incorporated, has the plan to approach the Westernacher company to request a quotation for an excavator of his choice. Mr. Meyer and the Superstructure Incorporated are well known to Westernacher because this customer already purchased several excavators in the past with quite a decent order volume. Mr. Meyer is calling Westernacher to start the negotiation with Mr. Becker, who is his account manager. Mr. Becker schedules a meeting with Mr. Meyer in the office of the Superstructure Incorporated, and that will be the starting point for the overall negotiation process. Mr. Becker guides Mr. Meyer through the quotation process and is able to offer optional parts and additional services that might fit to the desired excavator. During the negotiation phase, he is able to handle different versions of the quotation, including different parts, services, and conditions. To fulfill the Westernacher internal audit requirements, Daniela Silber, she's the global account manager for the Superstructure Incorporation, has to approve each quotation version before it is sent out to the customer. Eventually, Mr. Meyer decides for one of the quotation versions and seals the deal. To give you more insight about the process, we will log on now to our demo system. I will log on as a sales representative, and I will navigate to the account master of the Superstructure company. So here I have a quite good overview about the account team. So from my company, about the address of the customer, about the sales quotations we did in the past, about sales orders, and a lot of other data. So I'm actually now at the facilities of the Superstructure Incorporated, and I'm sitting in the office with Mr. Meyer. And I start the quotation process. So while he is sitting with me, I create the sales quotation. So since I'm starting here from the account master, the account data is taken over into the quotation, so I don't have to fill anything here. The primary contact for this customer is Herbert Meyer. So he is sitting in front of me. If I would speak with a different contact of this company, I could switch here to the contact details of this counterpart. The dates are taken over, the sales units is determined. When I scroll down here into this product list, I see there's already some details filled. and that is because the Superstructure Incorporated is flagged internally as a construction company. So we have a product listing in place for construction companies, and this will propose for each quotation process a machine Wille 455B with a quantity 1. Could be a different quantity. We don't have to provide a quantity. We are quite flexible here, and as well as some services. So luckily, Mr. Meyer wants to have exactly this machine. So I click here on save and open this quotation. This is a fast dialogue that I was in. And if I want to do add some more details, I can do that when I save and open this quotation, and then I'm in the detailed view of this quotation. So with the fast dialogue, I could create multiple quotations in a quite short period of time. When I'm in the detailed view for the sales quote, I see all involved parties. That's the account, Superstructure Incorporated. It's the owner, that's me, Eduard Becker, the key account manager. And I see here as well my manager, Daniela Silber, who has later in this session to approve this quotation. I switch to the product tab here. And what I can see here is this icon. If I mouse over this item, I see we have an option for up-down selling products. I will click there later. But as well, I see here recommended products from cross-selling product lists. So standard functionality. For this webinar, we decided we would, it's a lean approach that we are showing here. So for this lean approach, we want to sell a product, a physical product that will later be transferred into an equipment, and we would like to be able to sell services for this product. So we created a cross-selling product list that provides 2 different kinds of services: a 5-year service plan and a standard 1-year service plan. Before I decide for one of these, I guide Mr. Meyer, my counterpart, to the up-down selling products. I click here onto this icon, and the up-down selling dialog started. We see here quantity 1, and after a second, we see that there's a product list, equipment additional, is in place, and this is a pre-owned version of the Wille 455B. So I start the discussion with Mr. Meyer. Would you like really to have the new product, or will you have a pre-owned but refurbished product for a less cheaper price? So during this chat, he decided no, he would like to have the new part. So I closed this dialogue. In general, I would have the option to replace this downselling product with the original product, but I could offer this product as an alternative for item 1. But the customer decided against that, so I will cancel that dialogue. But Mr. Meyer is very interested in the 5-year service plan. So I click here on this action plus, and this cross-selling product is taken over as an item 2 to this overall product list. This dialog is quite nice because I could decide now I will delete that again because he wants to have the 1-year service. Doing that, the cross-selling product is back in this proposal list, and I can decide for the 1-year service plan, what we do at the end. So Mr. Meyer is happy with these, is not yet happy with these products. He would like to have an additional product. It's a gear pump he is interested in. So I click here on this button and I just write pump in here. And the system shows me all products that have pump in the product text. And I will decide for the gear pump 455B. the quantity is automatically set to 1, and you see already that we have to submit this quotation for approval. So Mr. Meyer is actually happy about this quotation. He would like to get an offer for that. So we will save this quotation. So what happens next is that I submit this quotation for approval. So for that, I click here on Action and go to Submit. So for the sales responsible, the work is done. Question is, who has to approve? So we set up some rules that Daniela Silber has to approve that. But to check for this quotation, who is really the approver, I switch to the Approval tab. And here I see that this quote is in approval status, and Mrs. Daniela Silber is the approver. So I will log off as Eduard Becker and log on as Daniela Silber. So Daniela Silber has the role as sales manager. So her screen opens. Mrs. Silber.
Hello, my name is Daniela Silber. I'm the sales manager of Westernacher. As you can see, I got a notification. When I click on the notification, I can see that I have to approve a sales quotation. I could approve or reject this quotation directly here in this dialog, or I could go into the quotation to check the details. For that, we have to click on More. First, I will check the products and quantities. Then I will check the price details. So everything looks okay. I will switch to the Approval tab and continue with the action Approve.
So I will switch the role again and sign out as Daniela Silber. The approval is done. And I will log on as the sales employee again. So will be a sales representative again, Mr. Eduard Becker. So the approval was done. Daniela Silber got the notification in her notification bar, and Eduard Becker got an update on the notification bar as well that a quote he was involved in got an update. So I click here on the notification tab. I see immediately that this quotation got approved, and I could check the details, and I will do so. So because of the approval, the quote output document was created. So I click on the quote output to show you how that would look like, quite in standard. So we see the company details, the quotation ID, the date, as you know that, and we have all three products in here, and we have a net value in US dollar. So I will close that again. So we know that Mr. Meyer got the quote, and after a while he calls in, and because he remembered that during our chat in his facility, I told him there is a pre-owned version of this product, and he asked us to send him an alternate quote version for this part. So I go to this quote again, to this tab version, and I click on new version here. What happens now is that a second version is created that took over all data from the first one and inactivates the first version of a quote. There can just be one quote that is active at a time. So I switch now to this second just created version. Sorry, I clicked wrongly, of this quote. And I go to the product details. As said, Mr. Meyer would like to have this pre-owned but refurbished machine. So here in this version, I have as well the up-down selling button. So I click on that. So it doesn't have to be one upselling or downselling product. There could be multiple, some upselling, some downselling. And I mark this pre-owned part and replace. I click on replace, and that will exchange the new part with the pre-owned part. The rest of the quotation document, Mr. Meyer wants to keep. So since this is a change to the already approved version of the first quotation, I need a second approval for this quote version. So I submit again this second quote for approval. So I log off again as Mr. Becker and will log on as my manager, Daniela Silva. Usually, we don't switch the roles on one computer. If I'm assigned to a manager role, I don't have to switch to be a sales representative forth and back. So because of that, the system is loading the details again. Mrs. Silber.
Hello, here's Daniela Silber again. I just got a phone call by Edward Becker. He told me that he created a second version of the quote and gave me all the details via phone. So I just click on the notification icon and approve this quotation directly in the notification dialog.
So that was all for Ms. Silber for today. I switch back as soon as I can to the sales representative, Mr. Becker again, and he got a notification again about this new approval of his second quote version. And he will check again the printout. And within this printout, we see the same quote ID as on the first printout, but with a pre-owned part with a dramatic different price. So for this demo, we decide that a little bit later when Mr. Meyer got this second quote version, he decides for not taking the latest version, but the first one. So he wants to be sure that there's no trouble with this machine. He would like to go for a brand new one. So as said before, because of creating the second version, the latest version, the first version got inactive. So I can't create an order out of an inactive quote version. So I'm in the quote, I'm on the versions tab, and I just activate the first version of the quote. This game could go on forth and back. So it's you can create multiple versions, 10 of them, even more. And it's always just one version that is active, and the system is able to support to jump to each of these versions. And since it got approved and there was no change in this first version, I don't need a new approval process from Daniela for this process. if I would go in this first version and do a change in this first quote version, a new approval process would be required out of the box. So here again, the first version includes the original product, the new one, the standard warranty, and the pump. Out of this process, we create an order. So all data is taken over. I could enter an external reference and save and open this order document. So that's the order with exactly the same products. And if we click here onto this document flow, I would like to show you that in this order, you see the order is created in respect to this quotation. When we click here onto this icon, we see that this quote created this order, but the first quote had a second quote, but this is now inactive. So that's all for this system, and I will jump back into my presentation. So here comes our point of view. So what we showed was in general this process flow. So it's a bigger process flow that includes as well the logistic execution, goods issue, financial aspects. But we just showed the first section of that. What was the key process? The key process was that you created a quote, and it's important the quote could be created out of a web shop, out of a call center, out of a phone call, a customer visit with a mobile device, and even if the customer facility does not have access to a mobile framework, it could be done offline and later be then transferred to the system. Second, the product proposals were done, and that's supporting the work of this sales agent. So we had product lists, we had up-down selling, we had cross-selling, promotions would have been possible too. The quote version have to be approved. Actually, we don't need an approval, but I like the approval process because that gives us SOX compliance or compliance internal audit requirements out of the box. The activation, there's just one quote version that is active, and we have a complete transparency about the process, about which quote versions are there, which one is active, and what was done before. When the order is created, we fix the terms and conditions. The order triggers the logistics, and at the end, the billing and accounting documents. What happens in this scenario is, and we don't show you that in the system because that would be too much effort for this webinar. When the goods issue is done, the product is, because it's a serialized product, an equipment is triggered, and the equipment is sent back to the leading system. What happens next is that a service contract what happens next is that we assign this equipment, meaning the registered product, into a contract to give a warranty, to hold to store the included services, but as well the excluded services for this contract item, the warranty item, and it includes a billing plan. The SAP solution approach. What we showed you was what is here now in the blue section. It was C4HANA, and that's the main focus of this demo. What you see on the top side is what we didn't show you. It's important. It's important that C4 and S4 are communicating seamlessly with each other, but the process that we showed before stopped at the order. To trigger S4HANA or any ERP system, we have to replicate an order to the system. So that's our integration entity. The order will trigger the logistic process. And when the goods issue is done, the equipment is created on S4HANA side or an ERP side and replicated back to the C4 system as a registered product. In a manual step, we assign the registered product into a service contract and assign the service levels, and that would hold the aligned service levels for this 1-year service that I showed you, or the 5-year service. It could include all kinds of services as sorry, as repair topics. It could cover spare parts. It doesn't have to include all kinds of spare parts. It can be maintained quite easy. The service contract could be integrated to an S4HANA system and be replicated forth and back. So S4HANA service contracts could be transferred to C4, but C4 contracts as well to S4. What is the benefit of C4HANA Sales Cloud in that demo that we showed? So this was a lean approach that we showed. There could be much more complex service scenarios built up with the configuration, pricing, and quote. But for this webinar, we decided for a lean approach. So this lean approach is extensible. It's out of the box offline, this scenario. As said, it's a lean approach. It's simple to use, and it's a major solution. It's a cloud-based solution. It's fast to implement. And as mentioned before, within this scenario, it's a mobile solution. So for this demo, we said the sales representative was at the facility of his customer. So we will go now to the Q&A session. And while you write your questions, I show you how we could support you. We have a C4HANA Inspiration Day. We support customer within creating business cases, proof of concept, pilot implementations, and application management support topics. So if you have any question, please write that into the question section. So then I will close this session. Thanks for your attendance.